Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 5 of What If Reds and Blues goes to Remnant. Link down description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 9, The Grey Team. Remnant, Kingdom of Vale, Beacon Academy. Teams RWBY and JNPR, Sun and Neptune. Premise. Teams RWBY and JNPR begin to question the appearance of the Reds and Blues, while trying to get Blake to go to the upcoming dance. Red Team comes into conflict with a bandit tribe. RWBY sat on Weiss' bed, with the Ice Queen sitting right next to her. The young huntress was staring at her old pendant that she gave to her boyfriend, Michael J. Caboose. She wasn't alone with Weiss. The rest of her team, along with Team JNPR, Sun, and Neptune were in the room as well, staring at her. The atmosphere in the room was rather tense, as if there was an actual elephant in the room. So, RWBY muttered as she looked up from her pendant, "What should we do? What should we do?" Nora repeated, "What should we do? We must celebrate." The young bubbly girl proceeded to bounce off the walls of the dorm room, even bouncing off Weiss' head in the process. Nora then stood on top of Yang's bed, the mighty, charismatic, and idiotic Reds and Blues. Loved by us, and hated by Weiss, are on Remnant. Stopping White Fang in their tracks, bringing fear to the criminal underworld. Imposing justice to all, our friends and Weiss's forced acquaintances. They are on Remnant. Nora. Ren shouted at her. "Hey, sorry Ren," Nora muttered, as she smiled innocently at her longtime friend. "Okay." Sun spoke up, catching everyone's attention. "That's right, still here. So tell me, what exactly are these Reds and Blues? Do you remember that dust incident we got ourselves into?" Yang asked him, along with us and Team JNPR going missing a month before the start of the second semester. Yeah, Neptune replied. "Well, we kinda got stuck in another universe. Met the Reds and Blues. Stopped an evil AI, and a crazed maniac who wanted more AI. You know, fun stuff." Yang explained. Sun looked at Blake for answers. "Blake, can I get your version of the story?" Blake sighed, knowing Sun won't believe them. Granted, who would? "It's true," Blake said to him. "In fact, they are the reason why RWBY changed her appearance." "Really?" Neptune muttered as he looked the Reaper. "Yep," RWBY replied, "I have a special relationship with one of them." "Relationship?" Yang snickered, "More like boyfriend." Yang proceeded to bake kissing noises at her little sister, which earned her a punch in the arm from RWBY. "So yeah," RWBY muttered. "All right then," Neptune said in response. "So how long has it been since you saw these guys?" Sun asked. About a month." John replied. "And why didn't you go back to see them?" Sun added. Both teams were silent. "Me," Weiss replied. "Weiss." RWBY groaned. "No RWBY, it is my fault." Weiss insisted. "I accidentally broke our teleporter. The only thing I didn't do was lose access to the experimental dust." "And how did you lose that?" Neptune then asked. "You can blame my father for that." Weiss muttered darkly. "Apparently supplying your daughter with the most important material in order to survive is less important than supplying dust to contractors who pay the most." "That's dumb," Sun replied. "You bet." Weiss continued, "And not just that new dust. Even stopped supplying me with regular dust as well." Weiss then sighed and looked at the floor. "Maybe I just..." Weiss, "Stop." RWBY cut her off. "This isn't your fault. Sure, you don't like them as much as everyone else does, but that doesn't make you guilty." Weiss smiles. "You're right. But I'm still wondering why they haven't stopped to see us." "Well, maybe they haven't for a reason." Hira suggested. "Maybe it isn't even the Reds and Blues." John spoke up. "RWBY, your mother shared the same symbol with you. Maybe that was your mother's." "That's possible," Ren muttered, "but if it is them, why are they attacking the White Fang?" "Yeah," Yang muttered. "Blake, you said that there was a group of bandits who raided White Fang battalions outside the kingdom. It seems like a decent connection. But stripping them of their aura." Blake muttered coldly. "Why would they do that?" "Yeah, they aren't that violent." Weiss added. "At least they don't seem to kill them. Except for that lousy sniper shot that hit Torchwick. Probably Church." Yang chuckled. Ren then looked at RWBY. "RWBY, what do you think?" RWBY sighed. "I'm not sure. But right now let's not worry about it." Blake's eyes widened. What? This news is quite surprising for everyone. RWBY explained, but welcoming nonetheless. Whether it truly is the Reds and Blues or not is still a debate. But these bandits are also giving us breathing room to focus on our normal lives here. But they don't know that White Fang like I do. Blake protested. Don't worry Blake. Yang assured her, we'll still have time to investigate ourselves. Blake sighed in despair, whatever. The cat Faunus got off her bunk and made her way for the door. Where are you going? RWBY asked her as Blake opened the door. I'll be in the library. Blake replied darkly before shutting the door quietly, leaving everyone in the room. RWBY's right. John muttered as he stood up. We can't let this hold us back. We have our own problems here right now. In fact, I think it is time for some training, he said as he looked at his partner. Right. Kira smiles as she got up and followed John out the door to train on the rooftop. I could go for some pancakes. Nora snickered as she looked at Ren. Yes Nora, I'll make you pancakes. Ren replied as he and Nora left the room as well. Well, I guess this talk is over, see ya. Sun muttered as he and Neptune then left, leaving the rest of Team RWBY in the room. RWBY stares into space for a moment, catching her friend's attention. What do you think RWBY? Weiss asked her. It's been a month for us, right? RWBY muttered. Yeah, Yang replied. Well, how long has it been for them? Pod change, the Reds and Blues. Blue team stared at the cryopod that contained Wash, whose condition had only worsened. It had been a day since they indirectly assisted Team RWBY in stopping Torchwick. I've meaning to ask you. Tucker said to Carolina, did he have any problem while we were gone? Carolina sighed, no, nothing big. Tucker then smirked, did he kiss you? What? No. Carolina's face turned red underneath her helmet. Tucker and Kai started laughing. We're kidding. Geez. Kai chuckled, but something tells you wished he did. I will not deny nor confirm that. The ex-freelancer muttered, so I heard you ran into your friends. Not exactly. Caboose replied slowly. We indirectly helped them stop Torchwick. Tucker explained, Simmons shot off the bastard's arm in the process. So they still know that we're here? Carolina questioned. I hope. Tucker sighed. Hey, I've been meaning to ask this, but why can't we just go see RWBY anyway? Kai asked. We could. Tucker replied, but there are too many questions that we have about this place. We need our own answers. We still know the identities of the other horsemen in this White Fang operation. Hopefully with that new bug Simmons planted into Vale's communication tower will give us some answers. Carolina added. Suddenly, Sarge entered the room with a warning. Sarge, what's wrong? Carolina asked him. The nearby village is under attack. Sarge explained. White Fang? Kai asked. Sarge shook his head. No, bandits of some kind. Go stop them. Tucker ordered him. We'll stay here and watch after Wash. On it. Sarge nodded before leaving the room to address his men. Our orders are to push back the enemy from our territory. Those dirty whites wait. I mean, blues. Simmons, think of a color to call these guys. The grays. Simmons suggested. Really? Griff said to his friend. Perfect. Sarge shouted, now fall out. Oh, and Donut. Yeah, the lightish red soldier asked. Bring the pig. Later. The entirety of Red Team were at the cliff overlooking the village. The same place they were when they first arrived on Remnant. Donut HLED a stuffed animal pig in his hands. Why do you have that? Griff groaned, what's the point of bringing a stuffing carnival toy? Shut up dirtbag. Sarge barked at him, Locus what do you see? It's a small bandit tribe. Locus explained while looking through the scope of a sniper rifle, I count only 10, but their leader seems to be out of sight. We'll split up then. Sarge suggested, Donut and Lopez will take 5 of the men. Griff and Simmons the other 5. While me and Locus will look for the leader. You're just suggesting that so you don't have to fight anyone. Griff muttered. Of course not. Sarge countered, once I have captured their leader. I will be the bandits' new leader. It's just like Mad Max. Which one? Donut asked, the original or the reboot? I prefer the reboot. Lopez added his 2 cents. Aw shut up guys. Sarge grumbled, come on let's move. With that done, the team made their way into the village. With Sarge ordering each to split up and fulfill their duties. The Red Soldier and Merc on the other hand, made their way into the village square. It was quiet, aside from the gunshots and sword clashes heard in the distance. Presumably coming from the rest of Red Team and the bandits. "I don't like this," Locus muttered as he and Sarge walked back to back and weapons at the ready. "As much as I hate to admit it, I agree with you," Sarge replied. "Bandits usually use large numbers to overrun villages and steal their supplies. These guys only have enough men to get themselves killed. It's probably a coordinated attack then," Locus suggested. "I smell a trap," Sarge grunted. "What do you suggest?" Locus asked him. "Spring the trap." A gunshot then ran past the duo and hit a nearby pot, shattering it into pieces. A figure jumped from the rooftops and tried to attack Locus, but Sarge pushed him aside and managed to punch the figure right in the face, knocking it to the ground. Locus put his foot on the figure's stomach to prevent it from moving, and kicked the user's weapon away from its grasp. Sarge pointed his shotgun at the figure's head. It was then that Sarge and Locus got a look at their attacker. It was a young woman, perhaps in her late 20s. She had light tanned skin, very short brown hair, and icy blue eyes. She wore a light brown vest, with dark brown panels on the top, and a dark brown buckled strap on the back. A torn white shirt was underneath and was unbuttoned slightly at the top. Maroon jeans were on her, with the right side rolled up to her thigh, revealing a dark brown calf guard. On top of that, she wore boots, and armored gauntlets. "Who are you?" Locus demanded. I have no interest in you," she sneered, "but my leader insisted that we meet." "And who's your leader?" Sarge asked her. A loud hum filled the air, and the two soldiers turned around, with Locus still having his foot on the girl's chest. Behind them was a red portal of some kind, and a lone figure emerged from it before disappearing. The figure was a woman, presumably older than the one they just met. She had extremely long raven black hair that had a layer of normal hair on the bottom, and a layer of messy hair on top, similar to a bird, with a red bandana holding it in place. She wore a red and black kimono-like dress, needed a necklace around her neck, black pants with heels, and red armored gloves. A large grim mask covered her face, and a sword of some kind was sheathed at her hip. "Damn, I swear it is nice to see everyone supporting the Red Team around here." Sarge chuckled. The woman just stared at him. "Okay, not the answer I was expecting," Sarge muttered before speaking directly to her. "I take you're the leader." "That's correct," the woman replied as the two proceed to circle one another. "I needed to see if you people were the real deal, as weak-minded folks in Vale tell everyone. 1. You could have just called us," Sarge said to her. 2. Are we a threat to you? "Perhaps." The woman shrugged. "You people are going to make the rest of society rely solely on you. If you disappear, they won't have the ability to defend themselves." "What are you trying to say?" Locus asked her. "Simple, to stop doing what you are doing," she explained. "I don't even know how you people can even be heroes." "Explain," Sarge demanded. "Well, from the looks of you, you seem to live under the delusion of honor and duty, which bleeds into your normal life as well," the woman said to them. "As for your friend, I can sense a sign of guilt and pacifism." Locus growled slightly. "I've heard enough." "I'm sorry," the woman said in a hurtful tone. "I thought we were fighting now." She then got into a fighting stance, waiting for Sarge to attack her. "I don't need to fight you," Sarge muttered. "All I need to do is waste your time." "Huh," the woman grunted before her face was slammed into the ground. She rolled onto one knee and took out her sword, a long red-bladed weapon that appeared to have some sort of trigger mechanism. The person who hit her in the back turned out to be Simmons, now joined by the rest of Red Team. The woman under Locus' foot managed to break free, and was now back to back with her leader. "Vernal, are you okay?" the red woman asked. "Yeah," Vernal replied. "They aren't pushovers." "Boring," Sarge mocking said to them. "Let's fight." Vernal charged at Donut, the pink soldier blacked with his arms before rolling out of the way and hitting her in the gut with his hammer. He then pulled her back with the magnetic force of his weapon and hit her in the head, sending Vernal flying into Lopez. The Spanish robot proceeded to punch her in the gut. Vernal then spin-kicked Lopez in the leg, causing him to fall over. Vernal then jumped onto the rooftops to try and get away. "Donut," Locus shouted as he was fighting the red woman, "open the pig." Donut put the pig on the ground and found a zipper on the toy's belly. He unzipped it and inside was a plasma grenade launcher. Donut loaded the weapon and fired a single shot in the air. The grenade stuck to Vernal's back and exploded, sending her flying off the rooftops and onto the ground right at Loca's feet. "Oh, I get it now," Donut muttered. "Pig. Portable. Integrated. Grenade launcher. Seriously." Lopez groaned. The red woman on the other hand attacked Sarge, who immediately dodged the attack. He took out his knife and pistol, slashing at her chest which blew off small chunks of her aura. She then blocked him with her sword before kicking him to the side. Her next attacker was Simmons. She dashed toward him moving quickly and in a zigzag maneuver. Simmons was unable to shoot her with his SMG and was immediately hit in the face with a sword. Luckily there was no major damage. "Ow, the front of my face," he shouted, "come here." He then punched in the gut with his own fist, which was enhanced by his armor's thrusters, sending her flying into a building. "Yeah, suck it, Gray," he taunted at her. The woman got up and growled. She sheathed her sword before drawing it again, with the blade now a light blue color. She dashed at Simmons again before her sword shot out ice which froze the maroon soldier in place. "Oh shit," he muttered. The woman tried to slash at him, but Simmons managed to break out of the ice and before he could be hit. The woman sheathed her sword again, and the blade became orange, and was engulfed in fire. She tried to attack Simmons again, but was blocked by Griff, who was using his sword. The two proceed to fight in a display of swordsmanship, with the woman on the defensive due to Griff's violent fighting style. The woman then had another attacker, Locus. The former merc drew his energy sword and tried to attack but was blocked, and she managed to grab him and throw him into Griff. Once the duo got back on their feet, they noticed that the woman disappeared. "Where'd she go?" Locus asked. "I don't know," Griff replied. "Hey guys, look, a bird," Donut shouted as Raven flew past them. "Yeah, Donut," Simmons said sarcastically to him, "it's a bird. Now can we keep fighting the Biao?" He was then hit in the side by the woman's sword just before she disappeared again. "Where'd she go now?" Sarge cried. The bird is back," Donut muttered, noticing the bird fly by again. "Number one cares idio shit." Lopez was then smacked to the ground by the woman before she disappeared yet again. This happened again and again with Sarge, Donut, and Locus. Griff then realized something odd. Anytime the woman disappeared, a raven would fly by. So he came up with an idea. He was the next one to be attacked. He looked up and noticed the raven flying overhead. He pointed his pistol and fired a single shot, hitting the bird. The creature fell to the ground and suddenly in its place was the woman. She had lost a large portion of her aura from the single bullet, as it was flickering ever so faintly. Griff walked up to her, and she tried to attack yet again. But the orange soldier dodged it and punched her in the face, knocking off her mask. He then grabbed her by the collar and brought her up to face level. "All right, lady," Griff shouted, "who the hell are you?" Griff dropped her in shock and stumbled back a bit. The woman got up and looked at him in confusion. She had fair skin, and red eyes. Vernal was soon right next to her, holding her weapon up in defense. Griff took off his helmet, revealing his face, and one word escaped his mouth. Young. The woman's eyes widened before narrowing in seriousness. A portal then opened up behind her and Vernal, and the two jumped in before it disappeared. "No, wait," Griff shouted as the portal disappeared. The rest of Red Team soon joined him. "Who was that?" Simmons asked his friend. "I don't know," Griff replied, "but she looked like Young." The group started to make their way back to their base, completely unaware that they are being watched by a figure who was on the cliff. He had messy black hair, and red eyes. He wore a gray shirt, and black pants along with torn red cape. A sword-like weapon was also on his back. "Well, this just got interesting," he muttered. He suddenly turned into a crow and flew off. "Pav change, Beacon Academy. That is all for today," Glinda said to her class as they started to leave the classroom, "and remember, the dance is this weekend. But you all have your first mission on Monday. I will not accept any excuses." Team RWBY left the classroom and started to head back to their dorm when suddenly they were stopped by Sun. "Hey Blake," he said to her as he walked up, "You doing okay?" Blake closed the book she was holding and looked at him in annoyance. Her eyes were saggy and she looked tired. "I'm fine," she muttered. Sun decided to cut right to the chase. So I hear there's this dance going on this weekend. Ah, sounds pretty lame, but you and me, I'm thinking, not as lame, huh? Blake just looked at him in confusion. What? The dance? Sun shouted, this weekend. You wanna go or not? Blake frowned even more in disappointment. I don't have time for a stupid dance. She huffed as she walked away. I thought you of all people would get that. Sun sighed and sagged in rejection. A thing that was noticed by her entire team. Pav change. Team RWBY's dorm. You what? Blake shouted at her teammates as they all sat together in their dorm. We want you to go to the dance. RWBY said to her. That's ridiculous. Blake protested. Blake, we're worried about you. Young said to her, this investigation is starting to mess with your head. You can't sleep, you hardly eat, and to be honest, your grades have been suffering. Weiss counted out on her fingers. You think I care about grades? Blake shouted as she pointed out the window. People's lives are at stake. Young put her arm down. We know, and we're all still trying to figure out what Torchwick is up to. Thanks to you and Sun, we know they're operating somewhere outside of Southeast Vale. RWBY explained. And, the Schnee Company records singled out Vale as the primary target for dust robberies over the last few months. Weiss added. Don't forget about their missing military tech too. Young muttered. But there's still unanswered questions. Blake protested, we still have the Reds and Blues out there fighting. We don't even know if it's them. Weiss countered, sure RWBY found her old pendant that she gave to Caboose. But that doesn't mean that they're the ones who are fighting the White Fang. And whoever is fighting them is giving us breathing room to enjoy ourselves. RWBY added, Blake, you won't be able to find anything if you can't even keep your eyes open. All we're asking is that you take it easy for one day. Yang explained. It will be fun. Weiss shouted, Yang and I will make sure of it. Yeah, we're planning the whole event. Yang added, as she pumped her fists together. Excuse me. Blake muttered. Team CFVY's away mission lasted longer than expected. Weiss explained. So, Weiss and I were asked to pick up where they left off. Yang continued, and now we can make sure you have the perfect night. And once it's all over, we'll return for our search, rested and ready. Weiss assured her. So what do you think? RWBY asked. Blake looked down at her feet before looking back up, frowning. I think this is a colossal waste of time, she said before getting up and heading towards the door, opening it. I'll be in the library, she muttered before shutting the door behind her. Great. Yang groaned. She can't keep going like this. Weiss frowned. Someone then knocked at the door, and the heiress opened it. Only to see John standing in the hallway with a guitar. Weiss, he sang, only for the rude Schnee to slam the door on him. Oh, come on, open the door. John groaned, I promise not to sing. Weiss huffed before opening the door. I lied. John shouted, before singing again, Weiss Shu Nei, will you accompany me to the dance on Sunday? Are you done? Weiss asked him. Yes. John muttered. No. Weiss huffed before slamming the door on him again. She then turned to look at her teammates, who just stared at her. What? She huffed. And that is why they call you the Ice Queen. Yang quipped. Weiss sighed, all my life, boys have only cared about the perks of my last name. Besides, I already have a date in mind. Date or no date, said RWBY, none of this will matter if we can't get Blake to go. Pav change. City of Vale. Roman Torchwick leaned against the wall of the White Fang-operated warehouse. He was gazing at the new robotic arm he got thanks to one of Cinder's contacts. It wasn't anything special, all it was a black robot arm. Adam was watching him. I want you to explain to me. How has this happened? Cinder sneered, via a holographic projection. Emerald and Mercury were standing with her. Torchwick frowned before making a fist. Those bastards that you told us not to worry about, are starting to poke their noses in our little operation. To further explain, Adam continued, they killed several of my men, and destroyed one of our paladins. Cinder put her hand to her chin and smirked, these soldiers are much more chaotic than we thought they were. But no matter. No matter. Adam shouted, these fucking idiots are a threat to all our plans. Mine, yours, Torchwick's, everything. Watch your mouth. Emerald shouted like a loyal dog. Sure, they are powerful. Cinder continued, but our plan is still suitable to be set into motion. Torchwick, start moving all our forces and supplies to our base in the southeast. Adam, you will go and oversee the recruitment of more faunus. Torchwick nodded before ending the transmission. This better work, he thought to himself. Chapter 10, Prom and Circumdance. Remnant, Continent of Sanus, Snow Gulch. POV, the Reds and Blues. Premise, a mission to stop a hacker from breaking into the CCT tower forces Caboose to go undercover during a dance at Beacon Academy. The Blood Gulch crew end up discovering a power that is way beyond their limits. It had been 2 days since the encounter with bandits, and Griff's mind was plagued with thoughts. The woman he fought bore so much resemblance to Yang, and she seemed to know who she was upon hearing Griff say her name. "Hey Griff!" Simmons shouted from inside the command center, "We're ready." Griff tore himself from his thoughts and made his way into the room. Everyone was either standing or sitting around their conference table. "All right Griff," Tucker began, "you're gonna wanna hear this." Simmons managed to identify the woman you and Red Team fought. Griff raised his eyebrows. "Who is she?" "Raven Bronwyn." Simmons replied before taking over, "This is where things get big. Raven is the leader of the Bronwyn tribe, a group of bandits that follow the rules of survival of the fittest." "Well, that explains why she said that we upset the balance of survival." Sarge muttered. Raven and her brother Kiro left the tribe at a young age to attend Beacon Academy, in order to learn how to fight and possibly kill huntsmen, and to keep them away from the tribe. Simmons continued, "Once there, they along with Summer Rose and Taiyang Xiaolong formed Team STRQ, with Summer as the leader." A picture of the original Team STRQ appeared featuring Raven in the middle. To her left was a man with similar features to hers, black hair, red eyes, etc. He carried a large sword-like weapon on his back. To her left was a man that bore a huge resemblance to Yang. He had light blonde hair, blue eyes, and a tattoo on his arm. Next to him was a woman that looked exactly like RWBY. She had black hair that was red at the tips, and silver eyes. The rest of her face was covered by a white cloak. They were the best team at the time. Simmons continued, anytime they caused trouble, they would get away with it. Kinda like Team RWBY. What happened to them? Carolina asked. Simmons swallowed a lump that was growing in his throat. I don't have all the information, but it appears the headmaster of Beacon, Ozpin, told them a secret that shook them all, and Raven became jaded. Afterwards, Raven and Tai apparently fell in love and had Yang. But after a year she left, and returned to the tribe. Kiro, who was already disillusioned by the tribe's methods of survival, stayed with Ozpin and began working alongside him for some unknown assignment. Aside from that, Kiro does work at Signal Academy alongside Tai. What about Summer? Caboose asked, what happened to her? Simmons sighed heavily. After Raven disappeared, Tai found love in Summer, they married and had RWBY. Tai worked at Signal alongside Kiro, while Summer stayed home with RWBY and Yang. She also took up huntsman missions around the kingdom, but managed to fit enough time in for family. But 4 years after RWBY was born, Summer went on a mission, she never came back. The room was silent. ... With Summer, Mia, and Raven just up and leaving, Team STRQ was disbanded. Jesus Christ. Sarge muttered. The sins of our fathers, said Donut. You mean mothers. Doc corrected him. Ain't that a bitch? O'Malley muttered. Okay, so why did Raven leave? Griff asked. Nobody just up and leaves unless they had a good reason. Like I said, I don't know the full story. Simmons replied, but right now, Raven will have to wait. The maroon soldier then looked at Tucker, who spoke. We found intelligence on our 4 horsemen case. Tucker explained, apparently, one of their agents, and possibly one of the horsemen, are planning to plant a virus into the CCT in Vale this weekend. We can't let that happen. What does the virus do? Doc asked. We're not sure. Tucker replied, but we are planning to interrogate whoever it is planting the bug about their operations. It will also give us the opportunity to test out my new invention. Simmons announced as he put a small canister on the table. This device should be able to absorb enough aura from someone without killing them. We can then use said aura to heal Wash. Are you sure it will work? Carolina asked him. I'm sure. Simmons replied. We'll be splitting up for this assignment. Tucker explained. Caboose and Kai will be undercover, while the rest of us will break into the CCT and intercept the hacker. Wait, why are Caboose and Kai going undercover? Doc asked. Yeah, why us? Kai added, looking her friend. Because you two will be young enough for the job. Tucker continued, there is a dance going on at the same time at Beacon. You two will be on the ground making sure no one gets suspicious about the CCT. Also it might give Caboose a chance to dance with RWBY. Really? Caboose groaned. I thought you'd be happy. Tucker questioned. I am. Caboose muttered, I just don't like being forced to dance, also I'll need to rent me a tux. Right now? Griff questioned, what kinda sex are you gonna have afterwards? Fine. Tucker groaned, I'll rent you a tux. What color? Blue. Alright, let's get to work. Pav change. Yang Xiaolong. Yang was practically skipping down the halls of Beacon. She finally managed to get Blake to go to the dance tonight, after refusing to go. From what she heard from the Faunus, she was already trying to find a dress to wear tonight. Yang had already got her dress and was bringing it back to her dorm. When she entered, she found RWBY sitting on her bunk. She seemed depressed over something. Hey, what's wrong sis? Yang asked her. RWBY didn't bother looking at her, nothing. Yang shook her head, come on, what's the matter? RWBY sighed and laid on her bed while looking and looked at the ceiling. This is basically my first dance, and since the Reds and Blues are possibly on Remnant, I thought Caboose would have been my date, even though I am not a fan of wearing a dress. Ah, don't worry sis. Yang assured her, I'm sure Caboose will turn up sooner or later. Are sure? RWBY asked her. Yang smiled, I'm sure of it. Weiss then entered the room. She shut the door before pinching her brow. Weiss, what's wrong? RWBY asked her. Neptune called off our date. Weiss muttered. The two sisters' mouths dropped. What? Yang muttered, why would he do that? I don't know. Weiss shrugged, besides, it doesn't really matter. I have more important things to deal with for dance. At least Ark won't be a problem. RWBY rolled her eyes, how come you don't like John? Because he's childish. Weiss responded, that's why. He's trying to be nice to you. Yang retorted. Weiss only replied with a, HMPH, before heading back for the door, I'll be in the ballroom if you need me. Weiss then closed the door, leaving the two sisters alone. Pav change. Beacon Ballroom. The time had finally come, as both students and Beacon staff made their way towards the ballroom. Yang was standing at a podium greeting newly arriving guests. She was wearing a short, white, halter-neck dress with a pale gray hem and white pumps. She fixed her hair as the door opened. Oh, you look beautiful, Yang shouted with glee as RWBY entered the hall. Like Yang, she was wearing a dress. Hers was a short, red, sleeveless dress with a thick black sash around the waist and black trim along the bottom. The bodice of the dress is split vertically to the sash and laced with black lacing. The yoke of the dress is transparent mesh with an opaque collar and hem, as well as opaque lines connecting the collar to her shoulders. She also wore black stockings and pumps. Her hair was also dyed from blue to red. Can we have a serious talk about how Weiss fights in these? RWBY muttered as she tried walking, only to lose her balance slightly. Which made Yang giggle. What happened to all of the blue? Yang asked. Oh, I thought why not go back to the old color. RWBY replied, just for tonight though. Alright then, I'll catch up with you. Yang said, as RWBY went off into the hall. The brawler then turned to see the door to the hall open up again, and two students walked in. The first was a boy with fair skin, bright blue eyes, and full set of spiky blonde hair. He was wearing a blue tux with a white shirt, black tie and pants, and black shoes. Next to him was a girl that seemed to be a fourth-year student. She had tanned skin, long wavy black hair, and brown eyes. She was wearing a dress similar to Yang's but the color was yellow and outlined in black. She also wore pumps. Welcome, Yang happily announced. Thanks. The girl replied as she and her friend walked into the, wouldn't want to miss this, it's just like that strip club I visited once. Yeah, Yang muttered, wait what? Pav change, Caboose and Kai. Oh, that was close. Kai muttered as she and Caboose got past Yang at the door. The two made their way up the stairs and to the balcony overlooking the entire dance floor. Are you guys inside? Tucker asked them via comms. We made it. Caboose responded, saw Yang at the front door but she didn't say hi. How are you guys doing? Kai asked. We're fine, thanks. Carolina replied, the Prowler is set to stealth mode so we'll be undetected by any Atlas ship. Speaking of them, there are a lot of them flying around and docked at the school, soldiers too. Well, should we do? Caboose asked. Like I said, have fun. Tucker replied, you earned it. Go dance with Ruby or hook up for a one-night stand for all I care. Which reminds me, I heard that there was this fashionista that goes to Beacon. Could you try and get her number for me? Kai rolled her eyes. I'm still here, Tucker. I know. Tucker said jokingly, just remember to look for anything suspicious. Got it. Kai replied before getting off the comms, well, I'm gonna hit the dance floor. See ya. Wait. Caboose muttered, but Kai had already left. Crap. Pav change. Ruby rose. Ruby stood by the punch bowl while looking at the dance floor silently until John showed up. He was wearing a tux like every other guy in the room. I see you're hiding behind the punch bowl too. John muttered as he stood next to her. Yep. Ruby replied, popping the P. John then raised his glass to the socially awkward. Ruby giggled slightly as they clinked glasses, sorry that it didn't work out with Weiss. Meh, it's fine. John sighed, Neptune is pretty cool. I get why she went with him. Ruby raised any eyebrow, what do you mean? Well, come on, not many people can pull off blue hair, he muttered before taking a swig of his punch. No, I mean, Weiss came to the dance alone. Ruby explained, causing John to nearly choke on his punch. What? He muttered. The two then looked at the heiress, who was wearing a white dress and pumps. She was carefully trying to keep a dying white rose from falling over, but to no success. Yeah, she said that she had too much to focus on to worry about boys. Ruby said to her friend. John took notice of Neptune, who was laughing over something with Sun, Blake, and some girl in a yellow dress. Hold my punch, he growled before walking away. Not knowing Ruby then decided to sip from his glass. Well, I better go find Yang Ga. Ruby was about to turn and go find Yang, when she tripped over her heel. Luckily, she was saved by someone. It was a boy, perhaps a second-year student. You alright? He asked her. Yeah, Ruby replied as she balanced herself, sorry about that. It's fine. He said to her, what's your name? Oh right. Ruby said as she straightened, I'm Ruby. Who are you? Me. The boy asked, I mean Michael. My name is Michael. Michael huh? Ruby muttered, are you a student visiting from one of the other kingdoms? Yeah. Mike said to her, one in the southeast. Vacuo. Yeah, that one. He replied, vacuum, something. This caused both of them to laugh at what Mike had just said. Hey he stuttered, I was wondering. Wondering what? Ruby asked. I was wondering, if you wanted to dance. That took Ruby off guard. No one ever asked her to dance before. Not even guys at Signal Academy. But something about this guy seemed familiar. Ruby smiled but not without blushing, sure. With that done, the two made their way to the dance floor. Pav change. Caboose. Church help me now. Caboose mentally shouted as he danced with Ruby. Funny enough, it was almost awkward for the two of them. They both were nervous, but danced as if nothing was wrong. You seem confused. Ruby said to him, still not know who he was. Just not sure what the party is for. Caboose replied. It's for the Vital Festival. Ruby explained, allows the students from each academy to get to know one another. To promote peace between them before battle, so to speak. Peace. Caboose muttered. Ruby looked at him funny, what's wrong? Nothing. Caboose assured her, it's just that I have mixed feelings about peace. What do you mean? Ruby asked. I have a friend who claims that there's no such thing as peace. Caboose explained, the very thing we call peace is just a delay until the next conflict, then he would try and start a war, but that's a long story. Ruby couldn't help but giggle at that, sounds like my friend Blake. But that last part sounds like my sister. Hey, speaking of friends. Isn't that your friend I saw you talking with earlier? The two stopped dancing only to notice John walk into the ballroom wearing a dress of all things. The entire crowd was laughing at him, but he didn't seem to care at all. He walked right up to Pyrrha and she herself was laughing. She took his hand and led her to the dance floor, followed by both Ren and Nora. The team performed a well-synchronized dance routine that was met with a thunderous applause. Caboose lost track of Ruby as he watched Team JNPR's dance. He managed to find her at the ballroom entrance. Hey Ruby. He said to her, is everything alright? Ruby turned and looked at him, I'll be right back, trust me. Okay. Caboose replied as he watched her leave the ballroom, heading straight for the CCT tower. Kai then walked up to him. Caboose, what going on? The blue soldier pointed in the direction of RWBY. Oh shit, Kai muttered before getting on the radio. Guys, we got a problem. RWBY is leaving the dance and making her way to the CCT. Yep, I see her. Simmons replied via comms. Wonder she's doing. Probably following someone. Locust spoke up. There's a figure on the rooftops, heading for the communication tower. RWBY must have noticed her. That's gotta be our hacker then. Tucker said. Griff, get us to the communications level of the tower. We'll intercept our unwanted guest once she gets there. Caboose, get RWBY back to the dance. Okay. Caboose replied before running off to find RWBY. Pav change, the reds and blues. All right men, Sarge shouted, lock and load. We need to take the CCT back from the enemy. Simon then spoke up, but sir, all we're doing is secure an empty room. There's no one on the top floor. Talk about security. Donut muttered. Securing a top floor that is controlled by the enemy. Sarge cried, now move out. The boarding ramp of the Prowler opened and Red Team minus Lopez jumped out and into the communications room. All landing in heroic positions in the process. As for Blue Team and Locust, all they did was jump down and land on their feet before walking casually into the room. Really? Carolina muttered to the Reds. What? Simmons questioned. We can't have style. She never said that. Doc retorted. I for one found it ridiculous. Suddenly, the elevator doors opened and a figure stood there dumbfounded at the sight of them all. It appeared to be a woman with fair skin, and raven black hair, and fiery orange eyes. She wore a black sleeveless jumpsuit, boots, and mask. Despite not being able to see her entire face, each soldier knew that her expression was one of surprise and anger. The woman's clothes lit up an orange color before two black swords manifested in her hands. She then charged at both teams. But Tucker took advantage of this by blocking with his sword, destroying one of her weapons in the process. Who are you? Tucker sneered at her, as they locked blades. But the woman said nothing and just frowned before pushing the Aqua soldier away from her. She was about to go and slash at him but was stopped, as she was caught in the crossfire of Sarge's shotgun. One bullet hit her in the forehead, but did nothing but blow off a large chunk of her aura. Carolina decided to take action, and charged at the woman. The ex-freelancer took out her plasma riles and fired several rapid-fire shots at the woman. 4 shots hit her, but she managed to dodge the rest. The woman pulled something out of her pocket, which appeared to be vial of some sorts. She whipped it through the air, and several glass shards manifested in front of her before they fired straight at Carolina. But Donut then jumped in the way and deflected all the shards to the ground. The sound of a grenade launcher going off then filled the air before the woman was hit in the side by an explosion. Griff held the Griff shot at her face before firing one last shot at her, but she dodged the grenade and flipped in the air. A bow and 3 arrows then manifested in her hands and she fired the 3 arrows at the orange soldier. The arrows landed at Griff's feet and exploded, sending Griff flying in the air, and landing on the ground. Doc then took advantage of the woman's position and fired a single rocket at her feet. The woman flew off her feet, slammed face first into a wall, and landed on the ground with a thud. The woman got up, and her 2 swords from before appeared in her hands. She got into a defensive position, while the reds and blues raised their rifles. Gotcha! Tucker quipped before the woman was suddenly grabbed from behind by an invisible Locust. She was pushed to the ground and Locust, Donut, and Carolina held her down. Donut, get her ankles. Sarge shouted at the lightish red soldier. Of course. Donut replied before doing something weird. Not my ankles, Donut. Simmons Tucker shouted, the bitch's ankles. Whoops. Donut muttered, before doing what he was told. The woman squirmed furiously, trying to get out of the soldier's grasp. Simmons then walked up and placed a container-like device over her. The maroon soldier then pushed a button and a strange glowing gold substance began to pull away from the woman's body. She screamed in pain as her aura was slowly being stripped from her. Stop! Tucker shouted after realizing that the container was a quarter full. He then went into the woman's pockets and looked through her scroll. Yep, this the hacker, he said before putting the scroll on the ground and smashing it with his foot. Suddenly, the elevator door opened. Pav change. RWBY rose. RWBY exited the elevator and entered the communications room of the CCT. It looked like a huge battle had transpired before she got there. She then noticed a figure on her knees nearby. The figure got up and threw several glass shards at RWBY. The young huntress deflected all the blasts with crescent rose before pulling out Sapphire's rage. A single blue shot fired from the weapon and hit the figure straight in the face chest before it fell to the ground. The elevator door then opened again and out stepped none other than General Ironwood, who took notice of RWBY. The Reaper smiled upon realizing that she had gained an ally, but upon turning back around, the woman was gone. "Pav change, the reds and blues. I thought I told you to get RWBY away from the tower," Tucker said to Caboose, as the entire team went to board the Prowler. They were now at the cliffside near Beacon Academy, with both Caboose and Kai back in their armor. "Sorry I couldn't keep up," Caboose replied. "I did manage to dance with RWBY, so that happened." "Well, I guess it wasn't that bad for you," Sarge chuckled. "Did you guys get what we needed?" Kai asked them all. "Not exactly," Simmons replied. "We got some of the hacker's aura, but before we could interrogate her, RWBY showed up. We bolted out of there before she could see us." "Come on guys," Carolina spoke, "let's get out of here before someone sees us." With that said, the group boarded the Prowler and flew off back to base. Pav change, Cinder fall. Cinder was angry. She failed at her task of planting a bug into the CCT. On top of that, she was bested by a group of individuals who weren't even soldiers. Torchwick and Adam were right, they were a threat, and definitely not a pushover. Lucky for her, her aura was regenerating slowly. She walked up to Emerald and Mercury on the dance floor, and took Emerald's place as Mercury's partner. She was now wearing an elegant black dress. Mission was a failure, Cinder blatantly said to him. "How so?" Mercury asked. "Those armored idiots were waiting for me," she explained, "destroyed my scroll, along with the virus in the process. They also took part of my aura in the process." Mercury then asked another question, "Did they take?" "I don't know," Cinder replied, "but now's not the time. After all, this is a party." With that said, the two continued to dance quietly as if nothing happened. But unknown to Cinder, she in fact did lose something. Something worth more to her than her aura. Pav change, Snow Gulch. Simmons connected the containment device that held the aura of the hacker they assaulted earlier that night, to the cryo chamber Wash was in. Everyone stood in the room, eager to see what would happen. "All right," Simmons muttered, "last chance to back down guys. There's no turning back," Locus replied, "Do it." Simmons looked at Tucker then Carolina, both of them nodding in agreement. "Here goes nothing." Simmons flipped a switch on the container and the aura was sucked into Wash's body. Its essence flickered slightly around his body before stopping, and the aura returned to the container. The cryo tube opened, and everyone leaned in to see if Wash was okay. "Wash," Carolina muttered at the freelancer's body, "are you okay?" A grunt came from Wash as he suddenly started to move slowly. His head turned as if he was examining his surroundings. "Take his helmet off," Tucker said to no one. Sarge went over and helped Wash out of the cryo tube. Simmons then proceeded to remove Wash's helmet, revealing his fair skin, bleached spiky blonde hair, and tired blue eyes. The two red soldiers then looked at his neck. To their surprise, the bullet wound he got that caused his cerebral hypoxia was gone. "It's gone," Sarge muttered. "It no longer hurts." Wash spoke up, his voice slightly weak after being in cryo for so long. "Doc, do a scan for us," Carolina said to the medic, "make sure he's good." "On it," Doc replied before going up to Wash and took out his medical scanner. Tucker then looked at Simmons, "Nice job dude." "Thanks," the maroon soldier replied. "Whoa," Doc suddenly muttered. Carolina looked at him worryingly, What's wrong?" "Something's radiating off of Wash's bioscans." O'Malley replied, "Whatever it is, it wasn't here before." Wash then grunted as if he were in pain. "Wash?" Sarge asked him worryingly. "Agent Washington," Locus added. Suddenly, Wash slipped from Sarge and Simmons' grasp and fell to his knees. A strange orange glowing substance radiated off his body, floating up in the air right above him. "Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch." Quote exclamation mark. Madre de Dios. The orange substance continued to float in the air before it suddenly moved in the direction of Kai at lightning speed. The substance surrounded her like the aura on wash before until it's disappeared. Kai proceeded to fall to the ground. Kai! Griff shouted as he and Tucker ran over to his sister. Kai, answer me. What the hell was that? Tucker asked Simmons. I thought all the aura was back in the container. Simmons went back over to the container and looked at the schematics. It is. This is all the aura we collected. Tucker then pointed at the container. If that was the aura, he then looked at Kai's unconscious body. Then what the hell went into Kai? And this is the end of part 5 of this what if. Do not forget to leave a comment down below, subscribe to this channel.